We are live. Welcome to Saturday, the 25th of April. This month is almost over. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that means, just like every Saturday and Sunday, we are live. I'm excited if you're excited, because this is one of my favorite things to do, and it's the Rewrite the Greats series. So, I'm excited. If you haven't heard about it, Rewrite the Greats. Today we are actually going to be taking Dragons of Autumn Twilight, a novel by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. I used to read this book. I'm actually re-listening to the series currently. These are the books that got me into fantasy when I was a wee little lad. So basically what I do is I take the first page and I'm going to read over it. I'm going to analyze it a little bit, and then I'm going to rewrite that page in my voice as an author. Now, this series is not a look at me, I can write. This series is to show you how author voice works and how to articulate your author voice and what it looks like to make choices while maintaining the plot points. The whole goal of this series is to show you that if I outlined a book or you outlined a book, okay, because a lot of people have that fear, like someone's going to steal my story, right? The idea is if you outline a book and someone takes it and they write it, it won't be the same story you're going to write because you have this lens you write through, this style and voice. So I'm going to basically be showing you a little bit more than that. Let's say hi to everyone real quick. Flowers! SB, everyone. Everyone's showing up. This is sexy. There is a poll in the comments below. We will talk about it at the end of the hour. So we have what's harder for most authors, starting or finishing. Right now we have starting, facing the blank page, am I right? Then we have finishing, pushing through doubt. Then we have both are equally tough, don't get me wrong. And then hard, writing is easy. There are no wrong answers, but we'll talk about it. We will talk about it. Let's get into it. Boom. If you don't know, in 1984, what do we got here? Finishing is definitely harder. I mean, it depends on your age. Oh, yes, finishing a book. Yes, finishing a book can definitely. I don't know. I would say, no, we'll talk about it at the end of the hour. That's a good point. That's a good starting point, though, Afghani. And also, great to see you. Oh, wait, SB's here. I gotta do the thing. All right. Took me 20 years to start. See, there you go. There you go. All right. Okay. So if you don't know, in 1984, Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman from the D&D world of TSR and Dungeons & Dragons, they got together. Much love, SB. They got together and decided to write a book. Now, this is the first book in a series of books, which is ultimately the rise and fall of the Draconians. The Draconians. Anyway, when I was a kid, I read this book. My friends were like, you got to read it. And I was like, no. And they're like, I'm telling you. And I was like, okay. And I was like, oh, wizards and magic and dragons and blah, blah, blah. Everything I like. I was a kid, though. This is 1984. I was born in 78. All right. So what is that? 6 years old. I was in my teens, about my teens when I started reading. And this is one of the first books. This and the other one I did, which is the Lord Soth book. But to be fair, same world. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of read through it. We're going to analyze it a little bit. And then I'm going to take some notes. And then I'm going to rewrite the greats. 52 years here. Oof. Yeah, but you started. That's the most important part. All right. All right. Tika Whalen straightened her back with a sigh, flexing her shoulders to ease her cramped muscles. She tossed the soapy bar rag into the water pail and glanced around the empty room. It was getting harder to keep up the old inn. There was a lot of love rubbed into the warm finish of the wood, but even love and Tally couldn't hide the cracks and splits in the well-used tables or prevent a customer from sitting on an occasional splinter. The inn of the last home was not fancy, not like some she'd heard about in Haven. It was comfortable. The living tree in which it was built around, or wrapped its ancient arms around it lovingly, while the walls and fixtures were crafted around the balls, the boss, of the tree with such care as to make it impossible to tell where nature's work left off and man's began. The bar seemed to ebb and flow, like a polished wave around the living wood that supported it. The stained glass in the window panes cast welcoming flashes of vibrant color across the room. Shadows were dwindling as noon approached. Ooh, that's a nice line. The inn of the last home would soon be open for business. Tika looked around and smiled in satisfaction. The tables were clean and polished. All she had left to do was sweep the floor. She began to shove aside the heavy wooden benches as Otik emerged from the kitchen, enveloped in fragrant steam. Ooh. Should be another brisk day for both the weather and the business, she said, squeezing his stout body behind the bar. He began to set out mugs, whistling cheerfully. "I'd like the business cooler and the weather warmer," said Tika, tugging at a bench. "I walked my feet off yesterday and got little thanks and less tips. Such a gloomy crowd. Everybody nervous, jumping at every sword." "Pah," Odik snorted. "Retarch's a solace-seeking guard. They're always nervous. You would be too if you had to work for Hedrick, that faint." "Watch it." Tika won't. All right, couple things. What we got here? Is this part of the dragon spear? The dragon spear? No, it's the dragon's This is actually dragon lance. So the series name is actually called, I think the full series is Dragonlance Chronicles. Oh yeah, it's just Dragonlance Chronicles. Again, it's from 1984, you know. By the way, if I may. A lot of stuff is happening in 1984 in this on this page. Yeah, I meant Dragonlance. Yeah, it's definitely Dragonlance. Which is interesting because nowadays it's things that we, or not we, but the world of writing kind of says, "Hey, what are you doing?" So I kind of want to talk about that to show you how writing evolves, and that in reality, your voice is a compilation of things that you like and don't like. So if you don't like it, you don't use it. When you like it, you use it. But back in the day, there were things that we saw. I feel like token inspiration in the writing. Dragonlance is a direct use of Tolkien. I mean, there's hobbits, and then in Dragonlance, it's the halflings. So you know. But let's get into it. So Tika Whalen straightened her back with a sigh. I'm not really a fan of with. So this is, again, if anyone doesn't know my writing style, my author voice, I like to write with a. Traditionally, I write in a third-person limited, but I write cinematic third-person limited, rotating, which is usually lyrically clear in a cinematic framing, because I like to write as if you're watching a movie. So, hey, Mallows! I try to avoid certain words, but it doesn't mean I don't use them. But with, to me, is a weaker word. That's the only reason I don't like to use it. But there's nothing wrong with using it. Just like there's nothing wrong with using any word. If it's what you want to do it. With that said, with a sigh. So, you know, to me, nowadays, that would probably be a little, this is active voice, but it would be a little bit more physical, a little bit more active, more physical movement. Flexing her shoulders to ease her cramped muscles. Very good moment. She tossed the soapy. They tell you not to use ly words. Y words are fine, though I don't think ly words are bad. It's just have purpose using them. But this is great. She tossed the soapy bar rag into the water pie. Oh wait, yeah, let's get these lines colored in. All right, and glanced around the empty room. So this is nice. Instead of saying look, they use glance. I know she writes look a couple times, but glanced around the empty room. That shows agency. That's So looked and glanced. Glance has agency because it has purpose behind it. It has intent, right? But if it's just look, they usually say try not to use look as often as as some people use it. Try to create some sort of agency or purpose behind it. There was a long line of books which is just a rehash of Tolkien in a way or another. I hated it. My first idea for a book as a kid was also like that. I mean, it happens, right? But don't get me wrong, these are kid books. These are not adult epic fantasies. These are high fantasy books. Not for, I wouldn't say they're kid books. There is death, there is kissing, but these are probably, and I wouldn't even call them YA, but they're definitely not, the violence isn't overly described, if I should say. But it's 1984. These are the books that got me into writing, and I think these kind of books are important for anybody, just in the sense, like, I love Afghani's, how he doesn't like it, which is great, because that means when he writes, he's going to take what he didn't like and then use his author voice and start writing things that he does like, and that just changes the environment of the writing community, and that's a good thing. But to be inspired even by something that not necessarily a piece of work you enjoy, in the sense of like, it's too tokenish. And don't get me wrong, I love Lord of the Rings, but those books are, they just, that book, if he was a new author today, there would be a lot of editing. They'd be like, it's a little thick here. Anyway, it was getting, so this is an aside. So this is where I start feeling like it may be in a third person omniscient. So that's one of the first things I would know that I wouldn't technically write it in. It was getting harder to keep up the old in. There was is kind of passive, right? There was a lot of love rubbed into the warm finish of the wood, but even love and tallow couldn't hide the cracks and splits in the well-used tables. This is a nice little aside. I do like the element of the aside, but again, what do we got here? Tolkien was the archetype that started it all, 100%. But just remember that it's more of a style choice. Yeah, absolutely. There is no wrong choice when it comes to writing the things you want to write. I believe there is such thing as good and bad writing, but the presentation of it can come in many forms. I like Lord of the Rings. I don't like all the books trying to be Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's very fair too. Also, notice how this is we got a medium, a short sentence, and then a really long sentence. Now, I personally don't like writing asides like this, like exposition, unless it is through the emotional experiences and choices of a character. I want the characters to sort of make this judgment. This feels like a judgment from the aside, from it was getting harder, was here twice. But also what's happening is they're mixing it up, right? They're trying to make it so the beginning, like this is the, there, it. So those are good choices. Let's see. The inn of the last home is was again. This is all very just exposition. Was not fancy, not like some she heard about in Haven. So this sentence actually places all of this into Tika's processing, which then now makes it, again, third person limited. These are her thoughts on the idea. Here's was again. It was comfortable. And again, there's nothing wrong with using these word choices. The living tree in which it was built wrapped its ancient arms around it lovingly, while the walls and fixtures were crafted around. Was. All right, so there's a lot of was in this, right? What we got here? I like Lord of the Rings. I don't like all the books trying to be Lord of the Rings. Big bad guy trying to destroy the world. Magic item that can defeat him. Going on. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think it's interesting when there's not a even though the Maven Wars feels like, Maven is the big bad. The big bad is really the system and the Overwatch and all that stuff. That's basically the prototype with variations. When I write, I also start with action, with dialogue. It helps to add context to what is happening. Yeah, it's always... this is definitely action. It may not be like swords and sorcery, but it is action. She's doing something. She's in the middle of an action, a choice. But also the long, detailed descriptions. Yeah. this is a lot of... This is just a lot of... I want it to be through Tika. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like it is not. And don't get me, I love Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. This is not a judgment on their writing. I'm just talking about my choices, okay? The bar, seemed is another word that is directly connected to was, or, it seemed. Well, it either is or isn't. Also, ebb and flow. That's everybody uses it. But again, this is 1984. Weaved around the living wood that supported it. The stained glass in the window panes cast welcoming flashes of vibrant color. All right. That's a pretty big chunk. So as you can see, the reason this kind of flows a little bit is because it is moving through different different length sentences. So it was getting hard to keep up the old inn. Then there's a chunk. And then the inn of the last home was not fancy, not like some she'd heard about in Haven. It was comfortable. So when you're writing, when you're in your second or third draft, that's what you actually should be looking for. Your first draft, not so much. Your zero draft, not at all. Your second draft, you could start it, But by your third draft, you should be looking at your sentence lengths. Are they creating a rhythm? Are they creating is the rhythm of your sentence structures creating a movement for the reader? If it is just... I don't think she doesn't have anything like that. But if it's just like a thick sentence like this, and then another thick sentence, and then another thick sentence, and another thick sentence, it just starts being, it's sludge. It's hard to get through it. So these sort of short sentences and really short sentences help break that up for the reader themselves. Again, Afghani, it becomes a stable for a while. The Dark Lord evolved into the Demon Lord in light novels and web novels. People like what they like and often go to what's popular. Listen, you need a shadow daddy is all I'm saying. Speaking of shadow daddies, here's more passive. All right, let's see. Let's get back to this. Boop. Shadows were... You mean the end of the last home would soon be open? Well, that's a good line. That's good. We'll give that credit. Tika looked around. So here's where it looked around and smiled in satisfaction. This has agency because she's performing something. I cleaned the place. The place is ready. It's going to be open soon. All right. So that's why, sometimes these kind of sentences are okay, especially nowadays. You don't have to worry about, overdoing every sentence. So you can if you want. I'm up visiting my foster mother in Hangman's Valley. The internet is weak. We shall be sending you strong energy for the internet. There's another tables where I feel like the style changed a little bit, but anyway. All she had left to do was. She began. All right, here's something interesting. This was taught to me about in writing. I've talked about this before. It's just about being concrete. So, have you ever heard of this writer writes with confidence, or there's confidence in the writing? Seemed, began. There's nothing wrong with these words. Okay, inherently. But when you're writing, for me at least, I like to have a strong choice. I like it to be what it is. She began in writing, as I was taught growing up, especially in screenwriting and later on in the novel writing. Began or starts is actually indicative to stopped. It means that they started or began to do something, but something stopped them. All right. So that's why, if you notice, began here is working because she began to shove aside the heavy wooden benches as Otik emerged from the kitchen enveloped in fragrant steam. So it's saying that she started to do something, and then she is noticing Otik. Otik's movement has created that blip, that disruption. Okay? So when you use the word began, when and where you can, allow it to be attached to something that's going to interrupt the action. Otherwise, it would just be she shoved aside the heavy wooden benches. And you could still get away with this sentence, if I may. This sentence still, you could get away with she shoved aside the heavy benches, and you could get rid of this, as Otik emerged from the kitchen enveloped in faint steam. You could get away with that sentence like that. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But they are using began correctly in this instance. Began or starts is usually connected to a disruption, interruption, or a change of direction. But again, who cares? All right, is a place here in Spokane. All right. What's this? Hangman's Valley. Is there a story there? I've always liked the stories behind places like Hangman's Valley or Death Valley. It feels like our world is just as fantastic as a fantasy one. I agree with that, Melis. That's you and me. All right. Should be another brisk day for both the weathers. Okay, he said, squeezing his stout body. I love this. Now, let's talk about this one. He began again. All right, he began to set out mugs, whistling cheerfully. I'd like the business. I would just say he set out the mugs, whistling cheerfully. Because again, began, you're either doing it or not doing it. That's the argument. When it comes to began and start, you're either doing it or not doing it. So why would you begin doing it? Unless you are being interrupted or stopped. That's a good name for a fantasy place. Oh, Spokane. All right. So what I like about this is actually, if you've been following this series, I do stuff like this. I like to have the environment kind of be depicted through the physical actions of a character. So squeezing his stout body behind the bar gives you more of an impression of the space behind the bar than saying it was tight behind the bar. I like squeezing his stout body behind the bar more than it was a tight space. Ta muchly Hannah. Oh, thank you, muchly. All right. This is a good beat. I like this. I like when dialogue is moved through characters actually doing, like, physically interacting with the environment. So this is also something I've talked about in the past, where when your characters are in environment, allow the environment to maintain presence. Even though the environment might not be super important, you still want the environment to feel like it is part of the... Everybody nervous, jumping at every sword. Why is it swound? Doesn't even sound right. I think this is supposed to be sound. All right. And this is supposed to be was. All right. And maybe it's not. This is definitely supposed to be sound. All right. Where was I? Oh, yes. So this is just a nice little touch to remind the reader of the environment. When you're writing, you want to maintain environment presence. Otherwise, it turns into, and I'm sure you've heard this, the White Room Syndrome, or floating heads, just dialogue. So whenever possible, allow the environment to sneak in. It doesn't necessarily have to be loud. It doesn't have to be, said Tika tugging at the bench, the crowd pouring in, and people screaming for her to get... You can do that, but it doesn't have to be. You can break that up too. Tugging at the bench. I worked my feet off yesterday and got Little thanks and less tips. Such a gloomy crowd, right? Everybody nervous, jumping in it. And then you could just have somebody screaming, Tika, we want some service over here. I'll be right there. And then she turns back to Odic. Red Solar Secret Guard, right? The point is, you always want the environment to feel like it is part of the movement. If not, then it just kind of vanishes. But let's get into this. So, all right. These are my notes. Tika is prepping the inn. The inn of the last home. What am I doing? I like to do like a short, a quick outline of how I want to see the scene play out, and I also want to take some notes that are important. So we need to know that Tika is prepping the inn of the last home. That must happen no matter what. That is plot. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for plot, and then I'm going to take that plot and put it through my author voice and how I would explore certain things. All right. Her position, it's getting harder to keep up. There was a... had the cracks. It's not fancy. This to me is his story, but it's supposed to be saying, the way I would look at it is Tika has love for this place. But this is this is too much for me. I would probably allow this to be considered her position. And what that means is throughout her interaction of the inn, in whatever chapter she's in, I would allow these elements to kind of stand out and pop out. And then I would allow anyone who says something bad about the inn to affect how she reacts to it. So those are the things that I talk about when I talk about positions or seating. Sometimes you might, and by the way, if you write like this in a first act or even a zero draft, do it. Let it happen. It's just in a second or third draft, your goal is to take this chunk, right, and say, why am I putting it here? Is this to tell the audience something specific? If so, that means I know it has to be important for the audience to know this, so I need to allow this to be represented through the story. There's a difference between you need to know this, so I'm going to tell you everything I can about it because it's important, versus it is important. So we should keep a presence to it. We should allow characters to connect to it. Tika is in the book a little bit. She's in the very beginning chapters, but there's still a few chapters. So with those chapters, it's very, very easy to take stuff like this and allow it to be moved through her. In fact, the chapters that come up where she's there, you can allow it to be through her perspective. You know what I'm saying? So you don't always have to chunk out like this, but if you do, again, when you write your second or third draft, think about that and go, wait a minute. I could probably shrink this down now and then just use elements of it later on, but also this is how Tika feels. So I should have that be a part of her behavior. And it's actually a small farm. Ooh, I like small farms. Big field in front where we were able to burn a huge pile of wood. Schmoz. All right. So this is what I'm getting so far. Tika is prepping, and ultimately she loves this place. And that is explored in 181 words. I might be able to play with that. Shadows were dwindling as noon approached. Okay. Oh, we got to know this is plot. It's getting close to noon, which is when it opens. When the end. All right, so that's important. She could look around, smile, satisfaction. Tables were clean and polished. Still needs a sweep. Jesus. All right, she began to shove. Odic. Otik. Otik. I have a character named Otis in my Maven Wars. Maybe this subconsciously is where the name came from. All right, Otik. Anyway, and then he began to do. Should be another risk day. Should be. What is it? Brisk. Brisk. It's brisk, baby. Should be. The weather. Ooh, and business. Should be with brisk. Brisk, baby. This is Otik's position. Right. Any questions, by the way? Remember, you could ask me like why I'm making these choices, where I'm getting things. You know, if you have questions about your own author voice or how you could take moments like this and use it to kind of understand certain things. Okay. And finally, bah! Eh. Rowdy. Pa. By the way, pa is a single sentence, but because it's connected to Otik snorted, you get a little bit more length to that. That's fine. Retarks. A Salasica. Little world building there. That's fun. Anyway. They're always nervous. They are always nervous, yeah. You would be too if you had to work for Hendrik. That faint. Watch it. Watch it. So that's interesting, right? Characters have thoughts and opinions. So I like this because Odik has an opinion, right? Which is a position, which is also he's making the choice to announce that position. So that's what I mean when I talk about like stories through the emotional experiences and choices of a character. So Otik snorted, so right? But Retark's a solace seeker guard, so that's establishes world building and context. Now he challenges that context. So this is play on dialogue. They're always nervous. So solace seeking guards are always nervous. You would be too if you had to work for Hendrix. So this is building context for things quickly, but also allowing it to move through the positions of a character, which means at some point we should learn or at least challenge that position either directly to Odik or somebody else in the story that's not even near Odik, where maybe there's a solace seeker guard that's not nervous, who loves working the job, and who is a fan of Hendrix, right? And that's like how you create that nuance, but you're also challenging things, and that creates engagement for the reader, because they're like, oh, this character who I like, or I'm meeting first, because that creates a bias, I met them first, right? They feel this way. And then you see or experience other characters with other opinions, or you're actually physically watching, maybe, if you've read the book, then you know, but maybe you see Hendrix being nice to the guards or giving a guard a day off or whatever the case is. And this is how you show the contrast between positions. It doesn't always have to be a direct conversation. It could be a playful thing. But anyway, But also we learned Tika's, she's like, hey, don't say that. All right. All right. It would be noon. All right. So I want to definitely have this opening moment, but I don't want to. The goal of this exercise is not to write what is written. We want to write it completely new. So. I'm not going to say Tika Whalen. The reason is because if it's in third person limited, Tika wouldn't refer to herself as Whalen. So that's something to think about too. Like when you're using word form in third person limited, who is the person experiencing it? Now, if it's a character that is identifying like Tika Whalen, you know, or what? It's just to hear the full name in a thought when you're yourself. Like how often, like I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. It would be as if I was like Thomas J. Bellezza straightened his back, and but it's me experiencing it. I don't think in my like, even though I'm not. I don't even think I'm not saying I. Right. So that's why I was like, maybe this is limited, but this little piece right here was not fancy like some she's heard about in Haven. It might be limited. I don't know. Let's keep going. All right. Let's change this to her wet rag caught the chips. Caught. Actually, we could do this. Yeah, chips of the old worn tables. In. And then what we could do is here, Tika plop the cloth into the war. Filth. Get it in. Dark and soapy. All right, one of these on Tika plopped. Anyway. Mm. All right. Okay. What we got so far? Let's see. Her wet rag caught the chips of the old worn tables. See, all right. Her wet rag caught the chips of the old worn table. Yeah, her wet rag caught the chips of the old worn table. Okay, her wet rag caught the chips of the old table. Why scrubbing over washing? Scrubbing has a physical action. Washing is general. Worn tail, scrubbing. Wood, old. Ooh, old. Worn table, scrubbing the wood. Tika plop. Hey, Cindy. All right. For the record, by the way, if I'm writing my own stuff, or if I'm like doing this in like real, for real, I don't do what I just did. I don't go back and start like soft editing. I'm soft editing just to sort of because of the exercise itself. But traditionally, what I would do is for a zero draft, I'll just write from the top to the bottom, get to the end of the book, go back, take notes, and then start rewriting it, the whole book again from chapter one. And now first draft is the same thing. I write first draft, I clean things up, but I don't do what I'm doing now. I get to the end of the book, I take notes, and then I write it again. So I don't like to until the third draft. The third draft is when I'm doing this kind of play stuff, where I'm looking and I'm like making more deliberate choices. But know that I have the line editing to come too, which is later. But what I'm doing now is later on stuff that I normally do, but I'm doing it for the exercise. So her wet rag caught the chips of the old worn table, scrubbing. Mm, deep scrub. Cramp. My hands cramped. Well, we don't need clean. Hey, 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 everybody. Okay, and a worn table. Actually, I think I'm gonna go back to the original. That's fine. That's fine. Plopping the cloth into the water pile, she squeezed the filth clean of it, the water dark and soapy. She lifted to her feet, stretching the strain out of her back. Her sigh took over the empty room as she gave it a once over, watching the shift of shadows call to the coming noon. All right, so if you notice, I'm already down here. So I did all this. This is 241. I just did that in 70 words. I do want to get some more of this in there. So let's see what I could do. Tika is prepping. Well, this is everything. It was getting. Love swirled into the warm finish of the oak wood, but love and towel didn't hide the correct. I know, right? That's a really strong. This is definitely a nice little something, something. Do 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 love. There was a lot of love rubbed into the warm finish of the wood. All right. So one of the things. Where is it? Where is it? It was getting hard to keep up with the old inn. I'm allowing that to show through physical behavior. I want the actions of what she's doing to feel like, you know. So keep in mind, I could have just said it was getting harder to keep up with the old inn. All right, let's see. Let's keep it going. I do want to get to Oda quick, but even love and tallow. I'm just reading. All right. Now. Anyway. It's a good, right, Cindy? Did you enjoy it when you read it? This is a fun book. I'm on I think I'm on book 3 now, if I remember correctly. I read them a long time ago, but I before you got here, I was saying how I started rereading it, but I'm actually listening to it. I have it on audiobook now. I did way better than their Death Gate Cycle series. They Scooby Dooed the ending like they didn't know how to end it. Love the first 5 in that series, but the last 2 thumbs down. I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those pesky kids. I read one of them when I was a kid, and I don't think it was the first one. I don't remember much other than a sorcerer whose magic took a toll on it. Yeah, that's Raceland Magier. He's in this book. He is in this book. All right. I think I want to play with this moment. Let's get here. I'm not gonna take it verbatim, but I want to just so I understand it. All right, so the logical narrative movement here is the watching the shift of shadows call to the coming noon. All right. What the light blistered window panes. I do want to use vibrant colors, though. We'll use that. All right. The light blistered through stained window panes. All right. Let's see if I can get some more. I'm trying to get some more of the descriptive stuff in there. Did anyone catch M's YouTube about this 2-year plot point with Thomas's book? That was a good interview, right? And I know M is not here today. She's out and about. But she was like, I'm not telling you where the video is. I found the video and I'm like, you were so good. She was so good in the video, you know. She had a lot of fun doing it. She's talking about her books. I'm so proud of her. She got that deal going on. She's got the book series. Very good stuff. And I was humbled, by the way, very humbled when she brought me up and started talking about my self-help book. I was just like, what? No, I didn't catch that seed. All right. Okay. The light blistered. Ugh. The light blistered in. Stained window panes, coloring a natural art of vibrant colors over the floor from one wall to the other. How we doing with words? Ooh, natural. Amy. Why didn't anyone tell me? I have it on my watch list, but right now working on organizing our writers group writing resources for the new website. That's going to get an applause. Let's give you an applause. That's awesome. I love hearing about this stuff. You know why? Because I think success truly comes from community and helping one another and growing together. And I know I say it often. It sounds like like a slogan, but elevate and celebrate one another. It's just a beautiful thing. Let's get me over here. Boop. All right. How about over here? Do 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 do. All right. Don't 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 don't. Okay. We got a couple more minutes. Let's see. The light. I should have. All right. For instance, whenever you have an opportunity to get rid of an article, do it. Light blistered in. Can I do this? No. Light blistered in. Had to step away for a bit, but I'm back now. I guess just for so it looks nice. The light blistered in through the old stained window panes, coloring a natural art of vibrant colors over the floor from one wall to the other. See, I don't like heard, but now here's an example of using wasn't fancy. Wasn't fancy. Was home. All right, so that creates like a rhythm and again purpose. You always want whenever you're going to use words that would considered be more considered like maybe weaker, you create a purpose or a rhythm to it. If you notice, I'm using a contraction. I don't normally like to use contractions when I'm writing my epic fantasy stuff, but it is becoming more common, just for the record. If you're worried about using contractions or not, if it makes it look less literary or whatever, don't worry. Contractions are fine. You can use contractions. There's nothing wrong with using contractions when you're writing a narrative. When you're writing in first person, it's more common because obviously, we talk shorthand. But the light blistered in through the old stained window panes, coloring a natural art of vibrant colors. Ooh, coloring and colors. Coloring a natural art of. Ooh. Is it dying? How do you spell dying? Like dying to die? Oh, I have to leave the E. Dying a natural. Okay. Dying a natural art. Dying. Dying. M's video is I may have had yeah, learning to outline. Do. All right. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't wealthy. It was home. All right. Let's get over here. So, all right. So, what is the logical narrative movement here? Do I have Tika's name here? Tika. Oh, I got rid of Tika's name. Oh, I got rid of Tika's name. All right, let's do this. Rag. You know what? You could put Tika here then. Tika's wet rag caught the chips of the old worn table. All right, that's fine. All right. So this is all in Tika's POV. So the way I'm looking at it is Tika's rag caught the chips of the old worn table, scrubbing the wood clean. All right. So what's the logical narrative? Well, she did her scrubbing, so she plops it in the cloth into the water pail, squeezing the filth clean of it, the water dark and soapy. So we know she's cleaning. We know she's just scrubbing. She's scrubbing. All right. She squeezed the filth. So she lifted to her feet, stretching the strain. Did I spell that right? Strain out of her back. Right? So we're moving from the action of cleaning to taking a break. Her sigh took over the empty room. We're describing the room as she gave it a once over. This is connecting to her stretching. Watching the shift of shadows call to the coming noon. So now that's all part of, we created a new element within the same sentence, leading or qualifying or adding. And watching the shift of shadows call to the coming noon. Now we're gonna explore that, because that is what she noticed, right? Her emotional experience and choices. She noticed the shadows calling to noon, but what does it look like? So now we're gonna expand on what it looks like. The light blistered in through the old stained window panes, dyeing a natural art of vibrant colors over the floor from one wall to the other. How does this make her feel? What are her positions and thoughts on it? It truly gave the inn a comfortable feel others didn't have. I should say in Haven. In Haven. It gave the inn a comfortable feel others didn't have in Haven. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't wealthy. It was home. All right. It was. Oh, you know what I could do? It was the inn of the last home. Okay. It was home. The inn. It was home. Home is connecting to the fact that it is the inn of the last home. All right. So that's a little play on how we got there. Do I need more? Do I want to do some dialogue? Do I like anything else here? I do like this, but I don't want to take. I'm trying not to take what is already written. All right, so, but I did like it was comfortable. I thought that was a really important element of it, and that she loves it. So I got in. She is prepping the inn. We got that, so we can mark that off. Got Tika loves this place. I feel like that last passage was that. It's getting close to noon. We got the noon part, but it's inferred. We will get to the opening part. Tika has the place ready for open, but she needs a sweep. I didn't get there. I didn't get here. All right, so I'm missing these beats right now. All right. Oh, all right. We did an hour. All right, so there we go. Let's read it. Tika's wet rag caught the chips of the old worn table, scrubbing the wood clean. Plopping the cloth into the water pail, she squeezed the filth clean of it, the water dark and soapy. She lifted to her feet, stretching the strain out of her back. Her sigh took over the empty room as she gave it a once-over, watching the shift of shadows call to the coming noon. The light blistered in through the old stained window panes, dyeing a natural art of vibrant colors over the floor from one wall to the other. It gave the inn a comfortable feel others didn't have in Haven. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't wealthy. It was home. Comfortable feeling. Okay. My sister is complaining about my cooking. A little bit here, a little bit there. Don't ask for a recipe. All right, everyone, there you go. So that's me taking something and then putting it into my voice. I'll go over real quick. Again, I try to write. My comfortable zone is third person limited, but I try to write in a cinematic, third person limited, lyrical clarity, but it usually in a rotating frame. What all that means is I like to write like we're watching a movie. So I stay as close to physical behavior as I possibly can. I try to avoid he, she, said, or not said, thought. So, for example, it gave this part right here, it gave the inn a comfortable feeling others didn't have in Haven. She thought, like, I don't have to do that. I'm using Jane Austen's free and indirect discourse. So in narrative, you can utilize that. So you can allow the narrative. This is a narrative movement, all right, a narrative passage. You can allow it to move through the internal processing as long as it flows naturally. Can you use thought? Could I have done this? Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's just choices. It's always author choices. Hit the like button. Yes, Cindy, thank you very much. If you don't know, please bloop the beard and bloop that like button. The interaction and all that other fun stuff. Sharing the video if you really like this video and you think people could learn about author voice and also the process of analyzing and breaking down a plot in already written pieces so you could just learn structure and stuff like that. Send them this video. It's a lot of fun. And every Saturday and Sunday, if you're new here, every Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do it live. All right, there you go. Let's get to the poll. Remember, if you have any questions about what I just did, about your own writing, about author voice, whatever it is, feel free to ask. You can ask me now. This next hour, I usually, if not always, give it to the audience. I'm a developmental editor and a writing teacher, so it's free. It's free advice. All right. The poem. The poll is, what's harder for most authors, starting or finishing? We have starting, facing the blank page. We have finishing, pushing through doubt. We have both are equally tough, I tell you. And of course, hard, writing is easy. Now, there are 10 votes, and there are probably new faces in the room. So I'll give the poll a couple more minutes. While we do that, I'm going to just jump to the hoopla. What's this one? Oh, the hardest is doubt, at least for me. Yes, doubt is a mofo, as they say. The AI Thomas has some information to tell you. Remember that I have books available, makearightlefthear.com, if you are interested in learning how narrative works, but also outlining. This book is great for pantsers and outliners because it explores narrative without digging into you must outline. But then if you are an outliner, the second half of the book does go into the 27 plot point outline, uses real-time examples, and shows you the step-by-step process of outlining, but more importantly, how to make it your own. If you love epic fantasy, Death of a King is available on Patreon and also Substack. So just go to makearightlefthear.com and you could go to either one. The reason they're the same. I release the chapters once a week and it's educational and all these other things. It's just some people like Patreon, some people like Substack. This book is currently available on Amazon, How to Be Successful in the Writing World, or entertainment in general. It teaches you the foundation. This is book 1 of 5. The second book will be out this year. It is finishing up being edited. All right, which is this book, Finding Solutions Within Talent. By the way, the noir, this is not the cover. This is just for artwork, just so I have something to show. This book is currently on Substack and Patreon. So if you want to read the zero draft version of this book, it is available. The first 5 chapters will be free for everybody. After that, it will be behind the paywall. Other than that, remember to subscribe if you really love what you've been watching, but you haven't done so already. Just and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. There we go. We got it all in. I can breathe again. All right. What's better than free professional advice? Pizza. Pizza from New York. Tony's. Tony's. I want some Tony's pizza. All right. I've seen some suggestions of reading the genre you are writing, but what if you are an eclectic reader? I read sci-fi, fantasy, romance, thriller. I think that's still great. Um, I've seen some suggestions of reading the genre you are writing. Oh, you're asking. Yeah, okay. Free professional writing. Mm-hmm. All right. Believe it or not, see, I'm on the outside of this. Now, I've been in the entertainment industry since 1997. I have studied narrative my whole life. I love movies. I love television. I love books. I love comic books. But I'm not what you would call an avid reader in the sense, where like you got to read like 3 books a month. Mostly because my career has been about reading other people's stuff. So in screenwriting, reading screenplays and giving notes as a developmental editor. Reading books. I'm always reading, but I'm not really a prolific reader on books in general. I do read, but I'm not like, let me get 3 or 4 books in this month. With that said, I don't believe you need to read your genre to write, but you do need to study the genre. You do need to study what a narrative is. I also believe that just because you're writing sci-fi, fantasy, romance, or thriller, studying narrative first will help you with the other things. Because at the end of the day, what's sci-fi? Well, it's magic through technology, and it has space elements. So it's the little things you could filter into a narrative. So that, if you understand narrative, you can write a thriller or a romance or a mystery, as long as you understand the movement of narrative. It's the same in every single narrative that exists. You can literally break a narrative down into one quick sentence. A teenager must fight in the Hunger Games. Then the narrative is simply 3 acts. Before the Hunger Games, and they win or lose the Hunger Games, right? So every single narrative is like that. You can literally turn it into a simple sentence, and then it's before the thing, and they win or lose the thing. Doesn't matter. Ghostbusters is the same thing. Ghostbusters is literally 3 scientists decide to open up a ghost-busting business. It's before the business is booming. Does the business succeed or fail? Every single narrative can do that. All right? Now, with that said, there are tropes and cliches and elements that should go into certain genres. Romance needs a happily ever after. It needs it. But a love story doesn't. But a happily ever after doesn't affect your understanding of narrative. Narrative is, I need to set things up. I need to challenge things. This challenge has a consequence. That consequence leads to new circumstance, which in turn becomes new setup. New setup, now I got to challenge new setup. So narrative has a rhythm in itself. But reading genres is great, but I do recommend studying, and that's different. So when I got into screenwriting, one of the things they said to do is watch movies and try to figure out what's happening and why it's happening, and then go to somebody who knows, or then look at the screenplay. It's like reading a book where they're like, oh, you learn how to write by looking at books. Yeah, but if you're not analyzing it, if you're just reading it and enjoying the book, you're not analyzing. So if someone says the show don't tell, what does that even mean? Right? And if you're reading, you're like, yeah, I think this is show don't tell, but why? And it's about going deeper. It's about looking at the elements. It's about looking at the connecting words. It's how is dialogue natural? It's not just listening to people talk. But if you're reading a book and you're like, the dialogue feels natural, but why does it feel natural? And what is it doing? What you outline it or highlight it and you go, all right, what are they saying here? What is the subtext? What is the information it's conveying? Oh, they did it in one word. Oh, their physical action is purposeful. It's not just something to create rhythm. Thomas grabs soda. Rhythm is important. He takes a sip. That might not necessarily have purpose. Therefore, it's costing your word count. So when you do read, there's a difference between reading and going, hey, I read the genre, versus analyzing it. I think analyzing and studying narrative is stronger and more important than going, I have to read every thriller book there is if I'm going to write a thriller. But you could also watch movies and stuff. You could watch, there's so many different ways. You could sit with authors that are thriller writers and be like, what is it about? You know, there's so many different ways. So don't feel like you have to read 8 books a month within your genre to be, you know, don't allow that kind of stress. Your writing voice will reflect your instincts. Follow your bless. I like that last part. Then, Cindy, your writing voice will. Yeah, you definitely, your writing voice is going to be ultimately what you like in books and what you don't like in books. Then it's going to be, the style in which you like to present things. And then it's your lens, how you perceive the physical world. And that'll become an element of how your characters perceive the physical world. Now, here's something that's interesting, or at least I think it's interesting. If you perceive the cold a certain way, and let's say you don't like cold, when you're writing a character that likes cold, and you personally don't like cold, you have to find ways to explore liking cold. So how do you do that? Well, I like the heat. How does liking the heat make me feel? And what is it about liking heat that I enjoy? So how do I relate that to the opposite? So there's things that help create your voice like that. I like the cover of your noir. I can't. That's it's. I took a picture of me, like, with my hair down, and then I just asked AI to make noir, so I can't use it. It is simply just for fun. I do all my covers are purposefully, but I just wanted something so I can use it as a placeholder. I can't use that cover. I can't use that cover. But it is me. That is a picture of me. Free professional writing advice. Pepsi. And yes, pizza. It's kind of weird writing something you wouldn't want to read. Yes, but people do it. And if you don't believe me, look at a lot of the authors that just churn out. There's actually, what is it? Famous author who hates writing their genre. Okay. Arthur Conan Doyle. Several famous authors have famously disliked or felt constrained by the genres that brought them success. Arthur Conan Doyle, who grew to hate Sherlock Holmes and killed him off to focus on historical novels. Okay. Octavia E. Butler, fantastic author, who despised the cliche-ridden sci-fi of her earlier works. Okay. Agatha Christie, mystery, grew tired of her most famous detective, Hercule Poirot, I can't say his last name, finding him difficult and often preferring her other characters. Stephen King has famously said he tried to prevent the publication of his book Rage because he viewed it as a dangerous accelerant to violence. All right, Ian Fleming, I don't know if that's James Bond. So he disliked his own novel, The Spy Who Loved Me, which was a drastic departure from the Bond formula. My point is, sometimes you get into these worlds where you make a lot of money writing romance. And maybe you have a series, and that series takes off, and now you have to write that series. So it's kind of weird writing something you wouldn't want to read if, like, you're starting out. But sometimes, let's be honest, without going into the crazy details, I can make 20 grand writing a screenplay independently. Right? That's not the writers union. Writers union is a whole different thing. How is it 20 grand? Well, you get $1,000 for X amount of time, and then you go through your stages. I don't know about you, but a lot of times I would get jobs. I did not like the genre or want to read it or watch the movie, but that doesn't mean I didn't put all into it. I went in as if it was important to me, and I wrote it because it was someone else's dream and they paid money. And sometimes you do those jobs because how long can I live off of 20 grand now? Now I could spend that time writing the stuff I want to write. Now I could spend time working in the communities in the field that I want to work. So you use those opportunities to make a chunk of money, and then you can use that to parlay your time. That was how I kind of grew my my career within that industry. Same thing with acting and comedy. I didn't have a day job, so I would have to work on projects I didn't necessarily have a passion for, but I appreciated the people involved. I never worked with people I didn't like or didn't believe in. If I believed in them, I worked for them, no matter the money. I've turned down thousands of dollars for Budweiser. My band once they were like, "We want to sponsor you guys," and I was like, "We can't take it." And they were like, "Why not?" I was like, "Because I don't drink, so I can't." Not that I'm against people drinking, but I don't drink. So I cannot promote a drink that I'm not going to drink, if that makes sense. But anyway, so I would work with groups and I would get a good chunk of money, and then I would be able to finance my own desires, my own wants that I wanted to create. So, I mean, that's the industry. Pizza is the ultimate food. Yes. All right. What else we got here? No, that's sushi. Afghani. Along with Indian food, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern food, Chinese food, etc., I like them all. Can't go wrong with Mediterranean food. Mediterranean food is known as the heart diet, right? I believe so, right? Mediterranean food called the heart diet. I think so, right? Yes, the Mediterranean diet is widely considered the primary heart-healthy diet. Yeah. Except for the pasta, but all right. Fish and chips. Can't go wrong with those fries, you know what I'm saying? I've also read many genres too, Cindy. Study narrative and how each genre uses it. Each has a movement, style, and tropes. Once you understand that, you can build your own story. I agree with that. Yeah. Diversify for sure, but if you could study and understand narrative and then you start looking what makes those genres, then put it on top. It's like, let's say, making a pizza. You could either make a disgusting pineapple pizza, but having never made pizza before, or you could study how to make pizza, right? But you have to study how to make dough first. How do I make dough? How do I make the right sauce? What is the ingredients for the right sauce? What kind of cheese combination do I want? Do I want a 3-serve cheese? Do I want a 2-serve cheese? It's understanding the formula that goes into making the foundation of something before you can even make the pizza, let alone cook the pizza. And then toppings is a whole other part of the system. So it's good to learn, I believe, the starting foundation, which is the ingredients, what makes a narrative a narrative. And then moving from there. Cool, didn't think of it that way. Do we need to tell every step a person would do walking to the door? No. No, you don't. I would recommend not doing that. You, if I may, when it comes to the physical reality of describing all that stuff, it's, let's say a character enters a room. There's a difference between the character entering the room and their interaction with that room slowly describes it. Let's say they have they step into a room barefoot. The way the floor feels on their feet is a direct emotional experience, okay? But them walking into the room and then describing the room is not. All right? Them wearing sneakers and walking across a hardwood floor, more likely than not, they would hear the steps, experience. But you don't have to explain every step. You just need to explain the movement that led to wherever they're going. Unless each step is narratively important. Description must be narratively important. If it's tense, right? He took 3 steps into the room, flicking the switch with no light. All right. He took another 2 steps into the darkness. The whistle of the wind, roared over a gurgle. He took one step back, right? But he, whatever the case is, you're the amount of steps are important in that situation. But not always. If it's not narratively important, you don't need to describe it. I don't think you need to describe the room and all the furniture that's in there, what the walls look like. But if the character is choosing to look at the wall because it has an emotional reaction to them, then yes. If the character touches the wall, what is the direct and most logical narrative connection to that? Maybe touch. Maybe the design. Maybe it's embossed. Maybe that design itself connects to something. The smell of the room. Does it matter narratively? It depends on the character. If they're an interior designer, maybe they're going to critique the room, but not describe the room. And the difference is, the description of the room is, they walked in, and there's 2 couches, there's a love seat, a long couch, a coffee table, a fireplace, and 2 paintings on the walls. That's a description, right? It's a very straight description. But an interior designer would be like, why would they choose that love couch next to that long couch? It doesn't even match the throw rug. Look at the throw rug. It's like, what is that, red? It's not, no, I think that's burgundy, right? It doesn't even match the pink of the couches. It turns into a character moment that describes a room, and that's really the secret. All right, I feel if you don't, then you lose where the character is physically in the scene and makes it easy to repeat the action, or suddenly they are standing in front of something else. Well, all right. The geography is important, but all you need is really, you got to remember, the reader is taking what you say and then building a world in their head. So as long as you have markers, that's all you need. The couch in the center of the room is a marker. Now they see a couch in the center of the room. They don't need to see the rest of the room unless it becomes narratively important. If they are near the couch, now they know they are near the center of the room. But you don't have to write, they walk 17 feet to the center of the room. You just go, they walk to the couch. As soon as you establish that the couch is in the center of the room, we know how it doesn't matter that they walk 17 feet. It just matters that they're in the center of the room. So you have to think like that. The physical reality is always based on markers, okay? If the fireplace is on the right wall, or the I forget what they call it, but the front of the house, but the wall that's considered the front of the house, right? You establish that, and when they're standing by the fireplace and looking out the window and they could see someone pulling up, that's the geography, is because you've stated you place the fire on the front of the house wall, So it's little things like that. Them walking there. Depends on how much detail you want to add, Cindy. Agatha Christie wanted to kill a patriot, but kept writing him. Yes, Pinar or whatever. Porat. Joe Abercrombie said something along the lines that he doesn't read anymore because it feels like work. Yes. Somebody the other day said to me, they're like, you don't read? And I go, I read all the time. Clients send me their books. I got to read their chapters. I got to take notes, and sometimes the books are brand new writers. Sometimes they're, a little bit writer, sometimes they're experts. Sometimes whatever the case is, I'm always reading. I'm just not, I can't sit down and just read a book. It's hard. It's like movies. I love movies. As soon as I start watching a movie, my brain's like, oh, The Ordinary World. That was the inciting incident. In my head, oh, there's the consequence. Oh, they're taking action. Oh, this is the fun of games. Like, my brain is just seeing that. By the way, Abercrombie gives a lot of interviews to YouTubers. Maybe you could get... I would love to get Abercrombie. I don't think I have enough subscribers. So with that said, please share this channel and videos. I would love... I have some more named authors coming my way. We have interviews already scheduled. I just filmed another one. I was really happy about that one. It's actually a noir, a crime novelist, and she's been doing it for like 20 years or something. I feel getting stuck reading in only your genre, you'll end up either reading and not writing, or staying stifling your creativity for a formula. I don't disagree with that. When I started music, all right, when I started in comics, all the comic artists I worked with when I was starting out, they said literally trace comics with basically a tracing paper. You put it on top, and what you're doing is you're learning the movement. Then I had an a teacher who was an art for the artist, and they were like, "Why don't you study body, study movement?" And I'll tell you right now, studying movement gave me more control over the way I drew than me just tracing, learning the muscle memory to, the look of something. When I got into music, the same thing. People were always telling me, you should just listen to heavy metal. You should just listen to heavy metal. And then I would talk to musicians of note, and they'd be like, don't listen to music because you want to listen to it. Don't listen to it to be like, I play metal, so I have to listen to metal. They were like, if anything, what is music? What is the purpose of it? What makes music music? And that gave me a voice in music where people were like, I love your style. But there are people that were like way better than me, but they had no style per se, but they could play anything. And it's the same thing with writing. I think if you dive into one thing, you become to take on those elements. So it is good to diversify just so you can keep your palette kind of, tools. Yeah, I can teach you how to paint with the primaries. Oh, look, red, yellow, blue, right? But how do you create real art? How do you go deeper? Well, you got to add another color in there. You got to play with the secondary colors. Maybe mix some colors together, You got to play around. It's art. There are no original ideas. Agreed. There are only 7 stories you could do. Every story idea is a variant or combination, of several themes and characters. Use what you need and twist it. Or subvert expectations. I'm a fan of that. Everything you just said, sir. I think you're right, Em, because it may be easier to borrow ideas from a genre. I don't think it's an issue to borrow the ideas, but I do think it's easier to find your voice based on what it is you want to write and talk about. But if all you're absorbing is one thing, like if all you ate was apples, you're not going to be able to talk about oranges, if that makes sense. You'd be like, oranges aren't apples. That's how you evolve your style and create something new. I agree with that. I never say left or right because then you have to remember left or right in the next scene. Yeah, that's why you use markers, Center of room is stronger than left or right, of course. But if it's center of room, by the way, and if you say to the right of the couch, that will always be the same, right? Because you're connecting the right of the couch to the thing you just centered. Edited a couple scenes this week while having the basement demolished, so thinking about little things more than normal. It's very cool. All right, where are we? The poll. All right, we have starting facing the blank page. I love that that's 9%. I'm pretty excited that 64% is finishing, pushing through doubt. I believe starting is one of the hardest things to do, but once you start, you're in it to win it, but it is getting to the end. Like there's that starting, because everybody wants to write a book. I want to write a book. Right? And it's like, well, write your book. Well, I can't, I can't. I have work, or I don't have the time, or blah, blah, blah. But once you start, oh, my cat's throwing up. But once you start, then you get to play with it, and you get to kind of do whatever you want. But that could end up taking forever. Because it's like, how do I get to the end? It has to be perfect. It's all the cleaning. So I think finishing, pushing through doubt and all that, I think that is definitely worth the 64% over starting. I feel starting is the hardest thing to do, but not the blank page problem. I think starting to write a book, like that idea where it's like, all right, let me sit at the computer, You know, like getting to the computer, I feel is the hardest thing. But I don't think starting while you're facing the blank page. I think once you sit down and there's a point where you're going to start. But the pushing through, definitely, for sure. Both are equally hard. I love that no one chose writing is easy, because it's not. Actually, I believe writing is easy where it's, Sarah met Chris, but being a writer is hard. Because you have to make choices. I learned to finish stories with short stories. So that means you can finish regular long stories, sir. It's all the same, isn't it? Isn't it? I don't know. It feels the same. All right. Same here, Afghani. Short stories and novellas are the way to go. I disagree. I think if that's what you want to write, it's definitely the way to go. But I don't think it is the way to go over something else. I think you have to find what it is you love and what you like to do, and that's the way to go. I do not think... It's like, hey, what's easier to learn? The acoustic guitar or the electric guitar? They're both very difficult to learn. It's not easy. It's the one you choose. So short stories are as hard as long stories. Novellas are as hard as anything else. It's just, where are you starting, There is an argument, though, to say that short stories, you get to the end of the story, so you start developing the habit to finish. But at the end of the day, a short story and a novella, it's really only a couple thousand words, big difference. But if you could write a short story, you're equipped to take on a longer story, a 90,000 word book. Does that mean it'll be good? It depends. It depends on how well you understand narrative movement, how well you understand the plot points. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you do because you love it. I was just talking about... What are you, the pet detective? All right, now that I have finally started, I feel like I'm on a roll. So if that changes down the line, I will be sure to let you know. That's me. Yeah, we're meeting tonight. We're going to talk about your stuff. I love it. I love seeing you flying through it. I got to get the rest of the stuff up there for you, but I'm very proud of you, SB. You're kicking butt. Excellent. Let us know how you're doing. Oh, that reminds me. Can I ask you a question? All right. What in the world? Getting a lot of messages from people. What's everyone saying? I don't know. All right. So I think that's it. I think we did good today. Kicked some butt today. I'm very proud of everybody. I think you're all doing fantastic out there. No, I'm not that funny, Thomas. I'm nothing compared to the Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey. What is it? 1:30? All right, I think we did good today. Is that everything? Oh, let me take this off. If you have some questions about your writing, now's the time. We could pop that up real quick. Answering audience questions. Give it to me, baby. One second. All right. So, what we got? Oh, hit the like. Great time as always. Thank you, Cindy. And, Cindy is a member just like a few other people in the group. And look, if you want to support the channel and really help the channel elevate, remember you could always go to Patreon, Substack, or join the membership of the YouTube. There is currently a course that I am posting weekly. I'm trying to get them always up on Thursdays. Sometimes it'll hit Friday. But after this third video, the series will go to the paywall. So if you're part of the membership on Patreon, Substack, or YouTube, you'll be able to watch that series. It's how to write a narrative, and it's going to go into everything. It's starting off with the most simplistic version of a narrative, and it's going to go deep into writing prose, how to make choices, how to edit. It's going to be a exhaustingly thorough course for everybody. But the reason we're doing that is because it helps me maintain this channel. Remember, I am basically semi-retired. I do the developmental editing. I teach writing occasionally at the library, and I write my books, and I do this. But this is really, I do this, and I love this. I love doing YouTube. So the way to keep me to be able to do this is the support everyone has been showing me. And if you can't afford to join the memberships or anything like that, remember, just sharing the videos, just sharing the channel is absolutely more than I could ask from anybody. I have no words for that kind of love. This is definitely something that has brought me a lot of joy, especially since losing my parents almost 3 years now. So getting to do this and getting to be in this world and really getting to connect to everybody in the community has absolutely been a journey that I'm blessed and grateful for. So that, I don't want to cry, so I'm gonna move on. All right. Yeah, so hit that like button. When I was a kid, I would start a bunch of books. After writing a chapter or two, I'll start a new book. I think it's harder to force yourself to stick to one idea. It can be, for sure. If I were you, Afghani, and I don't know if you've tried this already, but why don't you just write out just a single line for each thing, you know? Like, for example, just write out a line for each chapter idea. Like, I establish, you know, whatever. I'm going to just make up a name. So Kirk working on a moon base, right? And then maybe chapter 2 is Kirk saves his friend from an accident. Chapter 3 is alien ambassadors show up to the moon base. That's the inciting incident. And you just kind of like, what is one line for it? And you just see if it logically tracks. You might not ever write that book, but it's good for exercise. It's good to get your brain going, and it's good to sort of look at narrative movement, you know. And that might be for a long form narrative too. You might be like, wait, this is a full book. Maybe I could do something with this. How do you decide what plot ideas are good for a story when you have a gazillion of them? Oh. All right. I love this question, by the way. If I may, I'm going to do a quick aside. I know I talk a lot. The quick aside is, when I was in a pitching room for like screenplays and like film and television, or if I was in a writer's room, all ideas are crap. Hear me out. Your job, though, is to produce as many ideas as possible. Even if it's just a single soda makes a character strong, or, you know, the air is poisoned by plants, the happening. Just come up with ideas. Because in reality, no idea is good until you do something very specific. And I learned this in the rooms. Work the idea. An idea on its own is never going to be good. It might be interesting, but that doesn't mean it's good. In fact, a lot of the time, and I am not making this part up, a lot of the time, I don't know if you know this, writers are crazy. The writer's room would just start throwing out the dumbest things possible because we couldn't get an idea to stick. So we just started making fun of the process. And the dumbest ideas turned into what the project became. And it was great. Not because the idea was good, but because the absurdity made us think. And then we leaned into the absurdity because it was funny, and then that turned more serious. And then we started seeing crumbs and little pebbles that were leading us somewhere. and that became something interesting. So no idea, no plot idea is ever going to be good, but it will be important. And you just pop them out, and then you just have to put the work in. And if you're looking at your plot ideas and you're like, this one seems interesting to me, there's something there, work that idea. And to be honest, this sounds weird, but try to break the idea. Breaking your story is a very powerful tool to making something good, interesting, and great. And the reason is because we have the bias of having created an idea. So of course it's good. And maybe we're working on it. Like, this is great. But your job as a writer, part of it, is to start trying to find ways to break the story. Where doesn't it make sense? And you can't just be like, it makes sense because I wrote it. You have to be like, how does this work? Or, I'm not really a massive Stephen King fan, but tossing a monster in the corner, a proverbial monster, is a very smart way to break your story. How do I take a scene and make it move more? Well, let me put a proverbial problem in that scene that isn't really there right now. Yeah, sure, there's conflict, there's a little hesitation, maybe they can't find their keys. But what about they can't find their keys and there's a time they have to get to the hospital because somebody they love is in the hospital? All right, well, that's not the story I'm telling. Okay, but relate that to your story. How do you start building tension and stakes and problems within one scene? How do you build on top of things? And you might break your story, and that's fine. That'll show you where the top, the ceiling is. But ideas, to really find a good idea, you got to just come out with hundreds of them. That's why I always say come up with a minimum of 3. Like when a character has to make a choice, you go, well, what are 3 things that could happen? They could either succeed, they could fail, or they don't want to do it. All right. But in reality, your job as a writer is to take ideas and just add more ideas. And it doesn't matter if it works or not. You're not publishing the first thing you write. You're publishing something that's worked. So that's my advice. That was long-winded. I apologize. All right. I'm off. Good. Enjoy your unicycle, sir. Enjoy your unicycle. Good luck, Em. So sorry about your parents, Thomas. Yeah, I thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it. It's been 3 years, but I definitely feel the grief from it. But honestly, this community, these live Saturdays are definitely a way to work through that, if that makes sense. It's just nice to have people around. It's nice to talk to people. It's nice to discuss things. It's nice to just have a place you can go, you know? And I hope to everyone watching that this, even if you're not watching now and you're watching this on a repeat, I hope you know that Saturdays and Sundays, and it's going to sound like a pitch, but 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you know, I want you to feel like I need a break. I need to sit with people that are my community. I need to find people. I want these lives to be a place where people could come and just chit and chat, talk about writing, talk about life, you know, just have fun. Because we all need a place. We all need somewhere we can go. The joy is a two-way street. Thank you, SB. Much love to you. Much love. Yeah, that's what I do. I have a large folder of ideas. There's nothing wrong with that, my friend. Nothing wrong. Did we do the oh, we did. We did the poll. We did the poll. All right, we're out. I think we're gonna go. We're gonna go. By the way, did everyone enjoy the rewrite your great today? Did you enjoy the rewrite, or were you like, that's crap? What is this guy doing? Anyway, doesn't matter. All right, I'm out. I gotta go. Ooh, what's this? It's great to know people understand and enjoy good company. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I'm still laughing at the thing you sent me in an email. Too funny. Much love. I enjoyed the rewrite. Fantastic, Mellows. Thank you very much. Yes, yes. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Gotta enjoy ourselves. We gotta learn something, you know? All right, with that, I definitely got to go. I think I'm going to have some lunch. Got to do some emails. To everyone out there, look, thank you again for being here. Thank you for giving me your support and love. Absolutely, without a doubt, I truly do love the time we get to spend on these. With that said, I'll see you tomorrow. That's it. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. As always, keep developing the right mindset. Take care. Bye.